The great chamber fell silent. 800 species from across the galaxy held their breath as the final numbers appeared on the massive floating screen. The vote was complete. Earth had lost. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood alone at the small platform given to humanity. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. Around her, the council chamber stretched upward like a cathedral made of light. Thousands of alien faces looked down at her from their seats. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some were made of living crystal. All of them had just voted to throw humanity out of the galaxy. The Archon speaker rose from its throne at the center of the chamber. It was a being made of pure crystal, taller than any human, and its voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "The vote is complete," the Archon announced. 847 species vote in favor. 12 vote against. 41 choose not to vote. The motion passes. Earth and all human colonies are hereby banished from council space. Elena did not move. She did not cry. She simply listened. The Archon continued reading the charges against humanity. The list was long. Humans had only discovered space travel 300 years ago. In that short time, they had learned to copy alien technology that took other species thousands of years to develop. They had spread too quickly. They asked too many questions. They changed too fast. The Archon called it destabilizing influence on galactic peace. Elena knew the real word for what the council felt. It was fear. Pure and simple fear. She looked around the chamber at the species that had voted against humanity. The Vrel, with their long necks and gentle eyes, had been Earth's first friends in space. They had voted no. The small furry Katani had traded with humans for 2 centuries. They had also voted no. But 12 friendly voices meant nothing against 800 frightened ones. Humanity is given a choice, the Archon said. You may accept the installation of neural limiters in every human brain. These devices will slow your development to acceptable levels. Or you may leave council space forever. You have 1 galactic standard year to decide. Neural limiters. Elena had seen what those devices did to species that accepted them. They did not just slow down thinking. They killed creativity. They murdered dreams. A limited human would not be human at all. The alien ambassador next to her platform leaned over. It was a Theshan, a species of tall blue beings who had pushed hard for the banishment. Perhaps now you will learn your place, the Theshan whispered. You rose too high too fast. Nature has an order. You should have respected it. Elena did not respond to him. Instead, she pressed a button on her podium and spoke into the communication device hidden in her collar. This is Ambassador Vasquez. The vote is complete. Banishment confirmed. Requesting instructions from Earth Command. The response came in 47 minutes. During that time, the council waited. Many expected Elena to beg. They expected tears and desperate offers. They expected humanity to finally bow down and accept its place as a young and foolish species. When the response came, Elena read it twice to make sure she understood. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, that those closest to her platform saw it. That smile would give many council members nightmares for years to come. Elena activated her speaking platform. Her voice carried to every corner of the massive chamber. The people of Earth have considered the council's generous offer, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. We have decided to accept banishment. We will be gone from council space in 6 months. Silence filled the chamber. This was not what they had expected. The Archon speaker flickered with confusion. You accept? You do not wish to negotiate? There is nothing to negotiate, Elena said. You have made your feelings clear. We will leave. But the veiled expanse, another council member called out. That is the only region outside our space. It is death, radiation storms, unstable space, the ruins of ancient wars. No species can survive there. Elena looked up at the alien who had spoken. Then I suppose we will die, she said simply. But we will die free. We will die human. That is worth more to us than a cage made of neural limiters. The Theshan ambassador was no longer smiling. Something in Elena's calm acceptance disturbed him greatly. This was not how defeated species behaved. You are fools, he said. Proud fools who would rather die than accept guidance from your betters. Elena turned to face him directly. Perhaps, she said. But remember this moment, Ambassador. Remember the day you sent us away. Because one day, you may wish you had not. Is that a threat? The Theshan demanded. No, Elena said. It is a promise. Not of revenge. Humanity does not want revenge. But the universe is large and dark and full of dangers. And you have just sent away the one species that does not know how to give up. I hope you never need us. I truly do. She stepped down from her platform and walked toward the chamber exit. The human delegation followed her in silence. Thousands of alien eyes watched them go. The Archon speaker called after her. You have one standard year, Ambassador. Use it wisely. Elena did not turn around. We will not need a year, she said. We will not even need 6 months. Humanity does not wait to be told twice. The great doors closed behind her. In the council chamber, the celebration began. The dangerous humans were leaving. The galaxy was safe. The natural order was restored. None of them noticed the small smile still on Elena's face as she walked away. None of them knew about the message she had received from Earth. None of them understood what her acceptance really meant, because humanity had not been surprised by this vote. They had seen it coming for decades. And deep in secret facilities across human space, a plan called Project Exodus had been waiting for this exact moment. The council thought they were watching a defeated species prepare to die. They were wrong. They were watching a species prepare to be reborn. And by the time they understood the truth, it would be far too late. Elena reached her shuttle and allowed herself one last look at the council station. You wanted us gone, she whispered. You have no idea what you have done. You have not destroyed humanity. You have set us free. The shuttle doors closed. The engines fired. And humanity's greatest journey began. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon, an old man sat in a dark room filled with screens. His name was Dr. James Okonkwo, and he had waited 30 years for this moment. When the coded message arrived from Ambassador Vasquez, he did not celebrate. He simply nodded and pressed a button that would change human history. Wake them all up, he said into his communicator. Project Exodus is now active. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Across human space, hidden facilities came to life. On Mars, underground cities that had been listed as abandoned suddenly filled with light and movement. In the asteroid belt, mining stations that seemed empty revealed their true purpose. They were not mining stations at all. They were shipyards. And inside them sat hundreds of massive vessels that had been building in secret for decades. James Okonkwo was 107 years old. He had started Project Exodus when he was a young scientist who saw what many others refused to see. The Council did not want humanity as a partner. They wanted humanity as a pet, a controlled species that would never grow strong enough to challenge the old powers. He had spent his entire life preparing for the day when the Council's fear would finally overcome their greed for human innovation. And now that day had come. Sarah Chang was one of the first to receive the activation signal. She was a starship captain who had officially retired 5 years ago. Her ship, the cargo vessel Morning Star, had been decommissioned and sent to a scrapyard near Jupiter. At least, that was what the Council observers believed. When Sarah arrived at the scrapyard, she found her ship waiting for her. It looked nothing like the old cargo vessel. The hull had been rebuilt with armor that could survive the radiation storms of the veiled expanse. The engines were 3 times more powerful than anything the Council had approved for human use. And the weapons hidden beneath the cargo bay doors were completely illegal. "Hello, old friend," Sarah whispered as she touched the hull. "Time to show them what you can really do." Similar scenes played out across human space. Retired soldiers reported to hidden bases. Scientists entered laboratories that did not officially exist. Engineers boarded ships that had never been registered with the Bisos Council. The Council had demanded that humanity report all technology development. Humans had obeyed this law perfectly. They had reported everything the Council asked about. They had simply never mentioned the things the Council did not think to ask about. Meanwhile, the official evacuation began. Council observers arrived to watch humanity pack up and leave. They saw families loading their belongings onto transport ships. They saw orbital stations being dismantled. They saw a species in defeat, quietly accepting its fate. Commander Ravi Sharma was in charge of the official evacuation of Earth's largest orbital station, Gateway Prime. Every day, Council observers walked through the station, counting humans, checking cargo, making sure nothing suspicious was happening. Ravi gave them full access. He answered every question. He let them scan every container. He was the perfect picture of a defeated man following orders. What the observers did not know was that Gateway Prime had 2 cargo systems. The official one operated during the day, moving families and furniture to the evacuation ships. The hidden one operated at night, when the observers were sleeping. It moved technology, weapons, and the most brilliant minds in human history to ships that the Council did not know existed. "They see what they expect to see," Ravi told his secret team one night. "They expect a broken species. So that is what we show them. And while they watch us cry, we prepare for the future." The most important part of Project Exodus was not the ships or the weapons. It was the knowledge. For 300 years, humanity had studied Council technology. They had learned how everything worked. They had asked questions that annoyed their alien teachers. And they had quietly made copies of everything they learned. Dr. Lisa Wong led the team that organized this knowledge. She had spent 20 years building a database of every piece of alien technology humanity had encountered. She had also collected thousands of improvements that human scientists had invented but never revealed. "The Council thinks we just copied them," she told her team as they loaded the final data cores onto hidden ships. "They have no idea that we improved almost everything we touched. When we reach the expanse, we will have technology they have never seen. Technology they never thought possible." Elena Vasquez returned to Earth 3 weeks after the Council vote. She met with the leaders of Project Exodus in a bunker deep beneath the mountains of Switzerland. Around a simple table sat the people who held humanity's future in their hands. "The Council is happy," Elena reported. "They believe we are defeated. Their observers report that we are following all the rules. They expect us to die in the veiled expanse within 5 years." Dr. Okonkwo smiled his tired old smile. "And what is the real status?" "The first wave of ships launched last night," Elena said. 1,500 vessels carrying 3 million people. They used the dark side launches, just as planned. The Council detected nothing. They are already 2 days into the expanse. The room was silent for a moment. 3 million people had just flown into the most dangerous region of space known to exist. Many would not survive the journey. Everyone at the table knew this. "The official evacuation fleet will leave in 4 months," Elena continued. Every ship will be tracked by the Council. They will follow us to the edge of the expanse and watch us enter. They will record our deaths for their history books. And the real fleet? Captain Chun asked. Already in position. 12,000 ships hiding in the outer system. They will launch in waves over the next 3 months, using routes the Council has never mapped. By the time we officially enter the expanse, most of humanity will already be there, building the first colonies. Dr. Okonkwo stood slowly. His body was old, but his eyes were young with hope. For 30 years I dreamed of this day, he said. Not the banishment. I dreamed of the freedom that would come after. The Council tried to cage us. They tried to slow us down. But they forgot one thing about humans. He looked around the table at the tired faces of humanity's secret leaders. We are not a species that gives up. We do not accept limits. We do not bow to fear. They sent us into the dark because they thought we would die there. But darkness has never stopped humanity. We learned to make fire. We learned to make light. And now we will learn to make stars. The meeting ended. The secret work continued. And somewhere in the veiled expanse, the first human colony, ships were already landing on a world that no one had ever touched before. The Council thought humanity was dying. Humanity was just getting started. The veiled expanse was everything the Council had warned about. It was a region of space where stars died violently and gravity twisted into impossible shapes. Radiation storms swept across entire solar systems. Wormholes opened and closed without warning, swallowing ships that flew too close. The remains of an ancient war floated in the darkness. Broken ships and shattered worlds left behind by species that had destroyed each other millions of years ago. Captain Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Defiance and watched her fleet cross the boundary into this forbidden space. Behind her, 4,000 ships carried the hopes of 12 billion humans. Ahead of her lay nothing but death and mystery. All ships report ready, Captain, her first officer announced. We are officially outside Council space. Yuki took a deep breath. Send the message to the fleet. Tell them we are home. The first year in the expanse was brutal. The radiation was worse than anyone had predicted. Ships that survived the initial crossing began to fail as their systems broke down. Colonies were established on planets that seemed safe, only to be destroyed when the unstable wormholes shifted and tore the worlds apart. 17 ships were lost in the first month. 43 more in the second. By the end of the first year, humanity had lost over 200 vessels and nearly 500,000 people. But humanity did not turn back. There was nowhere to turn back to. Dr. Marcus Webb was one of the scientists working to understand the expanse. He spent his days studying the radiation patterns, trying to find safe paths through the storms. He spent his nights mourning friends who had died on ships that took wrong turns. One night, after losing another research team to a sudden wormhole collapse, Marcus sat alone in his laboratory and cried. He cried for the dead. He cried for the living who might be dead tomorrow. He cried because the Council had been right. The expanse was killing them. Then he dried his eyes and went back to work. That was the human way. The breakthrough came 18 months after the Exodus began. A young physicist named Anna Kowalski discovered something that changed everything. The wormholes were not random. They followed patterns that had been set millions of years ago by the ancient species that once lived here. And with the right equipment, those patterns could be predicted. They are not dangerous, Anna announced to the gathered scientists. They are highways. The ancients built them on purpose. They are transportation systems, and we can learn to use them. Within 6 months, human ships were traveling through stabilized wormholes, crossing distances in hours that would have taken months using normal engines. The expanse was no longer a prison. It was a kingdom waiting to be claimed. The second great discovery came from the ruins of the ancient species. Human explorers called them the precursors because no one knew their real name. They had been powerful beyond imagination. Their war had destroyed hundreds of worlds and created the chaos that filled the expanse. But their technology had survived. Captain Chun led the first team into a precursor, ruin on a dead world at the heart of the expanse. What they found there made everyone who saw it fall silent with wonder. The precursors had built machines that could reshape matter at the atomic level. They had created energy sources that never ran out. They had developed medical technology that could heal almost any injury and slow aging to a crawl. And they had left it all behind, waiting for someone brave enough to come and take it. The council thought this region was cursed, Chun reported back to the fleet. They thought the precursor ruins were too dangerous to approach. They were wrong. The precursors left us a gift, and we are going to use it. Human scientists merged precursor technology with their own innovations. They created new ships that were faster and stronger than anything the Council had ever built. They developed weapons that could crack planets, though they hoped never to use them. They built space stations in places where space itself was unstable, using precursor techniques to hold reality together. The colonies grew. The first generation of children born in the expanse looked up at twisted stars and called them home. They did not fear the radiation because human doctors had modified their bodies to survive it. They did not fear the wormholes because human pilots knew how to ride them like waves. 15 years passed. The Council occasionally sent probes into the expanse to confirm that humanity was dead. The probes always reported the same thing. Empty space, radiation storms, no signs of life. Humanity had died as expected. The probes never got close enough to see the truth. Human defense systems destroyed them long before they could spot the cities of light that now filled the expanse. 12 billion humans had grown to 15 billion. And they were no longer the same species that had left Council Space. Admiral Yuki Tanaka, now the senior military commander of the United Earth Confederacy, stood on the bridge of a new Defiance. It was 10 times larger than the original ship, built with precursor technology and human determination. "Status report," she ordered. "All defense networks are operating perfectly, Admiral. The latest Council probe has been eliminated. They still think we are dead." Yuki nodded. "And the listening posts? We are receiving all Council communications. They have no idea we can hear them. For 15 years, humanity had been listening to the galaxy they had left behind. They heard the political games. They heard the economic troubles. They heard the small wars and petty conflicts that filled Council space. And they heard the first whispers of something terrible approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Something called the Devourers. How long until the Devourers reach Council space?" Yuki asked. "Based on their current speed, approximately 5 years, Admiral." Yuki looked out at the stars of the expanse. Somewhere out there, her grandchildren were playing in cities that had not existed when she was young. Humanity had built something beautiful in the darkness. Something worth protecting. "The Council sent us away to die," she said quietly. "They feared what we might become. And now something is coming that will destroy them. Something they cannot fight alone." Her first officer looked at her. "What are we going to do, Admiral?" Yuki Tanaka smiled. It was the same smile Elena Vasquez had worn 20 years ago, in the moment before she accepted banishment. It was a smile that promised the galaxy was about to change. "We are going to save them," she said. "Not because they deserve it, but because that is who we are. That is what it means to be human." She turned to face her crew. "Prepare the fleet. It is time to go home." The Devourers came from beyond the edge of the galaxy. No one knew where they had been born or what had created them. They were machines of pure hunger, Massive structures of metal and energy that consumed everything in their path. Stars, planets, entire civilizations. Everything became fuel for their endless growth. The Arzelian Empire was the first to fall. They were a proud species of warriors who had conquered 100 worlds. Their fleet was one of the strongest in Council space. The Devourers destroyed it in 6 hours. Within a month, every Arzelian world was silent. Every city was dust. Every life was gone. The crystalline hegemony was next. They were beings of living crystal, ancient and wise. They had believed their technology was superior to all others. They were wrong. The Devourers adapted to every weapon the crystalline beings used. They learned and changed and grew stronger. The hegemony fell in 3 weeks. Panic spread across Council space. Species that had fought each other for millennia suddenly begged for alliances. Old enemies became desperate friends. But it did not matter. Nothing seemed to stop the Devourers. Archon Speaker Velith, the same being who had announced humanity's banishment 20 years ago, called an emergency meeting of the full council. The great chamber that had once been filled with confident voices now echoed with fear. "We have calculated the rate of Devourer expansion," Velith announced. Its crystal body flickered with stress. At their current speed, they will consume all of Council space within 3 years. We must unite our remaining fleets and make a final stand. The combined fleet of 400 species gathered at the Sentinel Nebula. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 2 million ships carrying the best warriors and weapons of 1,000 civilizations. The Devourers sent a single attack force to meet them. It was not even their main fleet. It was barely a fraction of their total power. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 90% of the Council fleet was destroyed. The Devourers had lost nothing. Ambassador Desser, the same Deshan who had whispered insults to Elena Vasquez 20 years ago, watched the battle reports from his personal ship. His hands were shaking. His people would be next. His homeworld would burn. His children would die. "There is nothing left," he said to his aide. "We are all going to die." The council was wrong about everything. "We should have..." He stopped himself before finishing the sentence. He could not bring himself to say it. His aide looked at him with hollow eyes. "We should have what, Ambassador?" "Nothing. It does not matter now." On Nexus Prime, Archon Speaker Velith prepared to address the remaining council members. It would be the final speech in the history of the Galactic Council. Velith had prepared words of comfort, words of acceptance. The end was coming, and there was no one left to stop it. "We calculate total galactic extinction within 3 years," Velith began. "There is no force capable of..." The transmission cut out. Every screen on every world in Council space suddenly went dark. For a moment, there was only blackness and terror. Then a new image appeared. It was a planet. A blue planet with green continents and white clouds. A planet that had been empty for 20 years. A planet that should no longer exist. Earth. A voice filled the silence. It was older than many remembered, but those who had been present at the banishment vote recognized it instantly. Ambassador Elena Vasquez, speaking from somewhere beyond the veiled expanse. "This is the United Earth Confederacy, broadcasting to all Council species. We have been watching. We know about the Devourers. And we have decided to help, not because you deserve it, but because it is who we are." In the Council chamber, every member stood frozen. This was impossible. Humanity was dead. Everyone knew this. The probes had confirmed it. The image on the screens changed. It now showed ships emerging from wormholes. Thousands of ships. Ships of designs that no Council species had ever seen. Ships that glowed with energy signatures that did not match any known technology. Ships that were impossibly large and impossibly fast, and armed with weapons that made the Council's best warships look like children's toys. You tried to cage us, Elena's voice continued. You banished us to die in the darkness. Instead, you set us free. We found the gifts that the precursors left behind. We learned secrets that you were too afraid to discover. We became something new. Something you never imagined. The Leshan ambassador stared at his screen with his mouth open. Beside the human fleet, his own people's greatest warships would look like insects beside dragons. So here is the deal, Alana said. We are going to save your galaxy. We are going to destroy the Devourers. And then we are going to talk about how things will work going forward. The image changed one more time. It now showed Elena herself, standing on the bridge of a massive ship. She was old now, her hair white and her face lined with age. But her eyes still held that same fire that had burned when she accepted banishment. And she was still smiling. Humanity is not asking for a seat at your table anymore, she said. We are building our own table. And when this war is over, you will be welcome to join us. If you choose. The transmission ended. In the council chamber, no one spoke. Many were crying. Some were praying to gods they had forgotten. Others simply sat and tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The Leshan ambassador was among the first to find his voice. How? He whispered. We sent them to die. How did they become this? His age shook his head slowly. I do not think we ever understood them, Ambassador. I do not think anyone did. At the edge of council space, the human fleet moved into position. At its center, the U-East Defiance led the way. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on her bridge and looked at the distant glow of the Devourer swarm. All ships report ready, Admiral. We await your orders. Yuki took a deep breath. Her grandmother had survived the radiation storms. Her mother had helped build the first colonies. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. Send a message to the Devourers, she ordered. Tell them that humanity is coming. Tell them that we do not know how to give up. And tell them that they picked the wrong galaxy to invade. Her first officer looked at her. And if they do not respond? Yuki smiled. Then we will teach them to listen. The human fleet jumped forward, and the war for the galaxy began. The war against the Devourers lasted 2 years. It was the longest 2 years in galactic history. Billions died. Hundreds of worlds burned. But in the end, humanity did exactly what Elena Vasquez had promised. They won. The first battle set the tone for everything that followed. When human ships met the Devourer swarm at the Arzelian border, the machines expected another easy victory. They had destroyed the combined council fleet without effort. These new ships would fall just as quickly. They were wrong. Human weapons cut through. Devourer armor like fire through paper. Human shields absorbed attacks that had melted council warships. And when the Devourers tried to adapt, they found that human technology adapted faster. Admiral Tanaka led the charge herself. The Defiance dove into the heart of the Devourer formation, its weapons blazing. Around her, human captains fought with a fury that shocked the watching council species. These were not the quiet, peaceful humans they remembered from 20 years ago. These were warriors forged in the fires of the Veiled Expanse. They are retreating, Admiral, her first officer reported. The Devourers are actually retreating. Yuki did not smile. Do not celebrate yet. This was just their first wave. The real fight is coming. But humanity did not just fight. They saved. While the war raged, human rescue ships entered council space. They found species on the edge of extinction and carried them to safety. They brought food to starving worlds and medicine to dying colonies. They rebuilt what the Devourers had destroyed. Captain Marcus Webb, the scientist who had once cried in his laboratory during the dark days of the Exodus, now commanded a hospital ship called the Hope. His crew rescued over 2 million aliens from devourer attacks. He lost count of the species that called him a hero. "We are not heroes," he told his crew one night. "We are just humans. This is what we do. We help people. Even people who hurt us. Even people who sent us away to die. Because that is who we are." The council species did not know how to react to this. For 20 years, they had believed humanity was dead. Now humans were everywhere, fighting and dying to protect species that had voted for their banishment. Some aliens felt shame. Others felt confusion. Many simply felt grateful. The Veshan ambassador personally met with a human commander after his homeworld was saved from devourer attack. He tried to apologize for what he had said 20 years ago. The words would not come out right. The human commander just smiled and shook his hand. "Forget the past," she said. "We have work to do." The turning point of the war came at the Battle of the Bright Nebula. The Devourers had gathered their entire remaining force for one final push toward the galactic core. If they won, nothing would stop them. The human fleet met them there. But they were not alone. For the first time since the war began, Council species fought alongside humans. The Vrel, who had been humanity's first friends, sent their fastest ships. The Kitani, small and furry and fierce, piloted attack fighters into the heart of the Devourer swarm. Even the Veshans joined the battle, their great warships standing shoulder to shoulder with human vessels. Admiral Tanaka commanded the combined fleet from the bridge of the Defiance. She was 70 years old now, tired and scarred from 2 years of constant fighting. But her voice was still strong. "All ships, this is Admiral Tanaka. Today we end this war. Today we show the Devourers what happens when the galaxy stands together. Today we prove that there is something stronger than hunger and destruction. There is hope. There is courage. There is the refusal to give up." She looked out at the massive Devourer swarm that filled the space ahead. "Let us show them what we are made of." The battle lasted 3 days. Ships were destroyed on both sides. Heroes died in fire and silence. But slowly, steadily, the combined fleet pushed the Devourers back. Human weapons shattered their armor. Council ships attacked their weak points. And when the final Devourer vessel fell, a cheer echoed across every frequency in the galaxy. The war was over. The galaxy was saved. 1 year later, Elena Vasquez returned to Nexus Prime. She was old now, over 90, but her eyes still held the fire that had burned since the day of banishment. She walked into the same council chamber where she had stood alone 21 years ago. This time, every seat was full. Every species wanted to witness this moment. Archon Speaker Veleth rose from its throne. The ancient crystal being had been humbled by the war. Its voice was softer now, touched with something that sounded like regret. "Humanity," Veleth said. "We banished you in fear. We sent you to die because we could not understand you. And you returned to save us. We owe you everything. Ask anything of us. We will give it freely." Elena looked around the chamber. She saw the same faces that had voted against humanity so long ago. But she also saw new faces, younger aliens who had grown up hearing stories of human courage. The galaxy had changed, and it was time for something new. "We do not want to rejoin your council," she said. Her voice was calm and clear, just as it had been 21 years ago. "We have built something better in the Veiled Expanse. A confederacy where all species are welcome. Where no one is banished for growing too fast or asking dangerous questions. Where the measure of a civilization is not how old it is, but what it does with the time it has." She extended her hand in that strange human gesture of peace. "But we would like you to join us. Not as rulers or servants, but as partners. Because here's what we learned out there in the dark. The universe is vast and dangerous and full of wonders. No species can face it alone. Not even humans. The vote that followed was unanimous. Every species, even the ones who had feared humanity the most, voted to join the new Confederacy. The celebration lasted for weeks. On 1,000 worlds, aliens and humans danced together under foreign stars. Old enemies became new friends. And for the first time in galactic history, every species looked toward the future with hope instead of fear. The new Galactic Confederacy held its first session not on Nexus Prime, but on a station built in the heart of the veiled expanse. It floated among the stabilized wormholes and precursor ruins, a symbol of what humanity had accomplished and an invitation to what all species could become. Alaya Vasquez attended that first session, though she was too tired to speak. She sat in the front row and watched as humans and aliens worked together to build something new. Ambassador Desser sat beside her, the same being who had once whispered insults at her in the council chamber. "I have spent 20 years thinking about what you said," Desser told her quietly. "When you warned me to remember the day we sent you away, I thought you were threatening revenge. I was wrong." Elena smiled. "I was not threatening anything. I was making a promise. We promised to become something greater than you imagined. And we kept that promise." She looked out at the assembled species, working together for the first time in history. "But this is not just our victory," she said. "It is everyone's. The universe tried to destroy us all. Instead, it brought us together. That is the real lesson. Not human strength, not council wisdom, but what we can do when we stop fighting each other and start fighting for each other." Desser nodded slowly. "Per aspera ad astra," he said, pronouncing the human words carefully. "Through hardship to the stars. I have been learning your ancient languages." Elena laughed softly. It was the first time she had laughed in years. "You will fit in just fine, Ambassador." She stood up slowly, her old bones aching, and looked at the stars of the veiled expanse one last time. Somewhere out there, her grandchildren were exploring new worlds. Somewhere out there, humans and aliens were building colonies together. Somewhere out there, the future was waiting. The galaxy was just getting started. And this time, everyone would face it together.